It's Thursday the 2nd of March 2017, and you're listening to the Paul Clark Podcast. So, new research out today. New research has proven something that I've always known to be true. Something that I've banged on about for a huge chunk of my life and have been shouted down, have been called ignorant, uncultured. That's a word that's stuck to me like glue. Paul Clark is uncultured. I had that once written on my report card at school. One of my parents' evenings once, the verdict was that I was an okay pupil. You know, I wasn't necessarily a problem child, but I was uncultured. Uncultured because I refused, it wasn't even that I refused, it wasn't like a political protest, because I was only probably, 8 or 9 or something at the time, or I don't know, maybe a bit older than that, but I just didn't find the works of William Shakespeare or Charles Dickens that fascinating. And I've been proven, all these years later, to be right. Because obviously, a lot of other people, children of the age that I was, don't seem to find these works of literature that fascinating. And this research that's come out today has basically shown that children are a lot more influenced and find out a lot more about the society and the culture around them through comic books and television, and to a lesser extent film. But I just want to focus on the television aspect and even the comic book aspect of this, if I may, because just to give you a little bit of backstory about myself here for a second, if I can, and my education and my upbringing. I was taken out of mainstream school at the age of about 7 or 8, where apparently I wasn't performing that well, and I was put into a special needs school, which catered for children with special learning requirements. But when I was at this special needs school, the teachers there didn't really know what to do with me, because they would say to my parents, "There's actually nothing wrong with him. I don't really know why he's here." So then I was taken out of the special needs school and put back into regular school. But in regular school, they were like, "Well, no, he's too much. We can't handle him. We don't know what to do with him." So I was thrown into another special needs school. And then they were like, "Well, we don't want him here." So then I was taken back into mainstream school, and again the same thing happened again, where I was taken from mainstream school and put into another special needs school. It happened multiple times, and has really, I think, interfered a great deal in my education. But I didn't mind so much, because to me, school was just something that you did. You know, I mean, this could, as far as I was concerned, this just happens. This is what happens. You go from one school to the next, to the next, to the next. Because my focus was never school. My focus wasn't learning. My focus was the television, and to a lesser extent comic books, but especially television. And all I wanted to do was get out of that school uniform, no matter which school I was at, special needs or otherwise. I just wanted to rip that school uniform off, get back into my normal clothes, and sit in front of the television on a Tuesday afternoon and watch the latest episodes of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Thundercats, or whatever was on. And I would regularly, later on in life, when I went into higher education, when I went to college, and then even my brief stint at university, I would turn around to these drama lecturers, to these drama teachers, and make claims that things like Knight Rider or Turtles or Thundercats or the Muppets or comic books, things like Batman and Robin or Superman, are of a lot more importance and a lot more relevance to our society, and mean far more, I think, to just normal, ordinary people than anything ever written by William Shakespeare, than anything ever produced by the likes of Stanislavski or Charles Dickens. The only thing that Charles Dickens ever did that was any good was A Christmas Carol, and that was it. That was it as far as I was concerned. So imagine later on in life, not having had necessarily the best education when I was at school, but somehow managing, probably just on wits and charm alone, to talk my way in to these performing art and theatre courses, and somehow convince people that I actually gave a shit about any of this stuff. And I just don't think I ever did, because all I ever wanted, really, I think, was to be Doctor Who, or to be an actor like Kevin Sorbo, to be someone that I've watched on the television and admired. And it wasn't until many, many, many years later, once I got out of the education bubble, the education cycle, that I realised I was in the wrong course. I was on the wrong courses. I should never have been on those courses. But that again sort of sums up my whole education, really, doesn't it? Paul Clark being in environments that really he's not meant to be in, but trying to find a place, trying to find somewhere to hone a craft, as it were, a creative craft. And I always thought that the world of creativity was open-minded and was accepting of different points of view. Not really. They're only open-minded and accepting of different points of view as long as you stick with their agenda. And their agenda basically is that, look, television is all fine and dandy, but it's basically junk food. Ugh, you have no idea how many times I heard that, by the way. Television, it's junk food for the mind, Paul. And if you stare at that TV any longer, your eyes will go square. I'm sure we've all heard that, right? Junk food. That's all it is, Paul. That's what Knight Rider is. It's just junk food. It's not. But here's something of far more relevance and importance. And you're given an envelope, and you open up that envelope, and it's tickets to the RSC in Stratford-upon-Avon to go and see Romeo and Juliet or Taming of the Shrew with Judi Dench. No thanks. I think I'd rather watch David Hasselhoff in Knight Rider, if that's okay. Or I think I'd rather go and see the latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Or I'd rather watch an episode of Doctor Who. Oh, but that's not culture, Paul. No, but they get good ratings. Something like Hercules, the hit 1990s television series Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, starring Kevin Sorbo, is of far more relevance and far more importance and far more popular than anything William Shakespeare ever put pen to paper on. Hercules was the most watched show in the world at its height. Far more people saw that. People of all different ages and backgrounds. But the world of the theatre, darling, the world of the RSC and the West End is an exclusive club, mostly for the higher echelons of society. But it's an exclusive club that certainly, in my neck of the woods, or maybe I'm just more specifically talking for me here, but for me, it's never penetrated my world. It means nothing to me. So if tomorrow, say, I don't know, the timeline was changed, say Barry Allen in The Flash changed the timeline, and as a consequence, the works of Shakespeare were eradicated from history, wouldn't make a blind bit of difference to me. I really wouldn't care. If anything, I'd probably go up and shake his hand, because it means nothing to me. And this research that's been out today has proven me to be right, that it actually means nothing, particularly to young, impressionable minds. Because in school, all they want to do is get the day over with, go back home, get out of the school uniform, and watch their cartoons. This research in particular mentions cartoons, animation like Bugs Bunny or Tom and Jerry or Daffy Duck or Disney productions, and how their influence and their impact on our society and our culture is far outweighs anything that the great artists, the great scholars, the great people like Shakespeare and Stanislavski and Charles Dickens have ever managed. Their relevance apparently is of far more importance and far reaching. With a single, Daffy Duck cartoon, you can reach a child's mind. And you do that by not preaching, but by entertaining them. By entertaining. Entertainment is key. If you can entertain a child and make them happy and make them laugh and give them an adventure at the end of a bruising, hard day at school, you can have access to their minds. And as long as you treat them with respect, as long as you produce good cartoons, as long as you produce good stuff, like what I had when I was growing up, things like Thundercats, which I'm quite happy to say, and I've seen this happen right in front of my eyes through friends that I've recommended Thundercats to, it still works. All these years later, Thundercats is just as old as I am. I think we're about the same age. I think, I'm 33 next week, and I think Thundercats started around the same time, 84, 85. So I grew up watching it on repeats and so on. And it still works, though, All these years later, it still works. And entertainment, I think, is the best way to get into a child's mind and to impact upon them. Not by preaching, not by saying, look at these works of literature, you must know this because it's part of your culture. Who cares? It means nothing when you go to get a job. Look, I've worked in supermarkets. I've worked in a medical centre. I currently work in a college. And I've got to tell you guys, not once have they ever asked for my qualification in drama, performance and theatre. Not once. It means nothing. The fact that I've got a BTEC National Diploma in Performing Arts means nothing. The fact that I've got a HND in Shakespeare means nothing. Trust me. And I'm someone who you would probably expect to be proud of that qualification. Trust me, I can read the complete works of Shakespeare if I chose to. But I don't want to, because it's crap. It's rubbish. And you're not supposed to say that, because, it's culture. Well, if Nazi Germany got one thing right, and I can't remember who it was that said it, it may have been Hitler, but I don't think it was, when asked about the word culture, someone turned around and said, when I hear the word culture, I reach for my gun. I agree with that sentiment. I agree, because the real culture is at home, on the television, and comic books. The snobbery towards comic books, particularly when I was at school, going back to what I was saying about how I apparently wasn't reading. I wasn't reading properly, and they were concerned about my ability to read. If you'd given me a Batman or a Superman comic, I would have stood up in the whole class and read it out. But I wasn't. I was given Shakespeare, Charles Dickens, crap. Stuff that wasn't a joy to read. And reading, make no mistake, should be a joy. But I do feel vindicated by this research today. And I, of course, would like to know your views on it. Comment below. Let me know what you think. Thank you very much for listening to this edition of the Paul Clark Podcast.